All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's sharing session. Right. Today will be quite, I would say, a chill one. Okay. It's the U.S. holiday, so yeah, the market are likely not gonna move. The stock market is also closed, so it's pretty much a very quiet night for trading. Okay, but nonetheless, usually most of the time we don't trade on Monday as well. Okay, Monday is in fact a very good time for us to have some time to look at how the market opened for the new week. Okay, it's actually what I call like Monday blue. Like you go to office, you are a little bit chill. It's just like the start of the week. You like to catch up a little bit with your colleagues and things like that, right? So it's the same in trading as well, where traders come in after a weekend and then they start to catch up in terms of what has happened in the market over the weekend. And then they might really only become more active as the week progresses. Okay, so that's how we view Monday as well. Okay, so good. So great. Okay, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, okay, just very quickly introduce to you what we often do over here on a weekly basis. Okay, so at the start of the session over here, I'll share with you some of the potential setups that you can keep an eye on for the week. And these are also, of course, potential trades and potential setups that I'm personally looking out for as well. Okay, and after that, we'll open up the remaining time for Q&A. Okay, so if you have any questions with regards to trading, investing, about the markets, or any particular, let's say, asset that you like for me to share an analysis with you, okay, that's something that you'll be able to do in the second part of this sharing session. Yeah, so let's first start off with giving you guys a quick overview as to what's happening in the dollar side. Okay, last week we do have the NFP market, but it did not really move really much, right? And that's something that I shared with you guys last week as well, where we talk about how recent years NFP is not as volatile as compared to like maybe 3-4 years ago. Okay, back then NFP easily can give us like 100-200 pips in the market, but recently we are just getting maybe about a good 50. Okay, sometimes you might even observe that NFP is released and the market just don't move. Okay, so that's what I've been observing for the recent years. Okay, I would say like last 2 or 3 years it has been like that, but before it's really very volatile. Okay, but last week's NFP, we do see a little bit of a weakness coming in from the dollar, right? So you can see actually this move here is due to NFP, and of course today we are just basically in consolidation. The market is rather quiet as of now. Okay, so if you ask me, moving forward, going into this week here, okay, I'm actually looking at a potential of continuation to the downside for the dollar, at least for the short term. Okay, right now, okay, at least until 91.5. This is on dollar index DXY chart. Okay, so I'm expecting this week here we might see some setup to sell the dollar. Okay, but given the context here is that we need to see a correction happening first, right? That would kind of increase the probability that the dollar would likely continue falling for the week. So you probably need to be a little bit patient. I would say maybe give it another 1 or 2 days. Maybe come back on Wednesday evening. Okay, if you do see a very clear correction over here, then yep, the probability of the dollar continuing lower, maybe on Thursday or Friday, would be pretty significant. Okay, so that's what I'm looking out for from the dollar. Okay, DXY. So with that, there are definitely some pairs I think is setting up very nicely. Okay, mainly I think over here is dollar franc, of course, and dollar yen. Okay, both of that are very closely correlated. Okay, and I would say they are setting up pretty decent opportunities for this week too. Okay, so if you take a look at dollar franc over here on the 4-hour chart, I've already included a little bit of the Elliott Wave count over here. Okay, and based on what I'm seeing over here, this can be the end of wave 5, and we're likely gonna see then, based on Elliott Wave, after every 5 wave, you do expect 1, 2, 3, which is your ABC correction. Okay, and most of the time the correction would then come back towards wave 4, where it ends, right? So this is where we are going to look out for an opportunity for this week. Okay, trading that short-term kind of like bounce back or short-term rejection on the dollar side. Okay, so for those of you who are keen and looking at this, I would say the area for a potential target zone is somewhere around 9145, which is where the previous wave 4 is. And of course, if you just take a look at the 1 hour chart, today is really great. It's doing its consolidation. Okay, again, there are many ways you can execute it. You can see it as like a double top, a break of this neckline, perhaps wait for the retracement, retest, and then you're able to, then from there, okay, look for that sell trade. That's one way you can look up for it. And of course, you can also wait for the flag and then wait for the breakout entry technique. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to enter a trade. Okay, over here, we don't really share specifically the entry because it's not going to be fair for everyone. Okay, you need to understand that all of you have slightly different personality, different style of adopting how you want to execute a trade. So you definitely need to have your own strategy. Okay, this session over here is to really help you identify and filter some of this opportunity. Okay, to kind of like do some of the heavy lifting for you, but at the end of the day, okay, you still need to have a proper plan, a proper entry technique, risk management plan before you trade. Okay, so over here, I would say this setup maybe by, I would say, tomorrow or even Wednesday. Okay, as soon as maybe tomorrow, Wednesday, you might get that trade starting to move to the downside, right? So pay very close attention to dollar franc. It would be quite a decent opportunity for this week. Okay, pretty similar to that is actually on dollar yen. Right, so you do see kind of like this V-shaped formation, a rejection over here. Just that dollar yen as of today right now is still not doing its correction yet. Okay, which is slightly different from dollar franc. Dollar franc is more or less developing already. So dollar yen over here, we probably need to give it a couple of more days. I would say maybe 2 or 3 days. Where by Wednesday or Thursday, I would say, okay, you probably get that decent trade if it develops into a flag for the downside. Okay, dollar yen is actually pretty interesting to look even on a higher time frame perspective. Okay, because for me, I'll be looking out for the target at around 107.45. So that's a huge opportunity that you can capitalize on for dollar yen. Okay, so it can be potentially from the driver here, the move. Okay, can be coming from both the dollar and the yen. Okay, perhaps the yen starts strengthening, the dollar continues to weaken from last Friday's NFP. Then the momentum on dollar yen can actually drop pretty fast as well. Okay, so this is something that I think is worthwhile to mention. Okay, and it's definitely worth your attention to look at it. Okay, the other dollar related currency over here is dollar CAD. Okay, so dollar CAD over here, what I'm seeing is there's this little momentum that's falling. I'm actually not too much interested in selling the CAD, okay, or I would say dollar CAD, but instead I would like to be monitoring how price actually comes back down towards 1.2250, which is this previous low here. Okay, and perhaps we might get a decent buy opportunity around 1.2250 here as well, depending on how price develop. Okay, but if it starts to come down and then starts to form what we call a crawl pattern, then that will be a decent setup for me to look for the buy trade. And this one here, of course, if I look to buy the upside, you can see it's huge, right? Okay, so dollar CAD is slightly different. Okay, I will not be looking to sell based on the dollar weakness if it were to come down, but instead I'll be monitoring for maybe a sign of bounce. Look for a buy trade instead on dollar CAD. Okay, so those are some of the major pairs related to dollar. In terms of gold over here, I would strongly encourage you guys to perhaps not buy into gold yet, or even maybe not to sell it yet. Okay, we are more or less right now in terms of gold is we are looking at it from this angle here, where I would say it's more like at a crossroad. Okay, so imagine you're at a crossroad. You can go left, you can go right, or maybe you have 3 options. You can even go straight, right? So you can turn left, turn right, or even go straight. And gold right now is in that situation. Okay, so it has three ways it can develop, for example, and it's almost like equal chance of each of this playing out, right? And it's not gonna be ideal, and probability is not in our side, right? So I would suggest that, if you are looking at gold, just be a little bit patient, because what I'm seeing over here is there's a couple of ways it can actually develop. One way is, of course, this becomes that strong momentum push. This is the expanding flat structure, and then we're gonna see a continuation to the downside, right? That's one possibility. And the other possibility, it can be that this is the double bottom kind of rejection, and then from here it breaks off, and then from here it starts to form a correction and it starts going, and then this becomes where you get the double bottom, and then this becomes the neckline break. Okay, that can happen as well, which is almost like 50-50, right? So right now it's just not clear. I do not have sufficient data on the price pattern here to do a forecast as to which one is likely going to happen as of today. Okay, so we probably need to give it a couple of more days to come and see how it's going to develop. Then you can make a more informed decision as to whether to focus on buy opportunity or sell. So as of now, I would say gold and silver, basically the precious metal, probably you do not want to touch them first. Okay, so that's on precious metal and the dollar. Over here, there's a couple of positions, I would say pairs, that you can keep an eye on, okay, in terms of like for the week as well. So you have like euro yen over here, okay. What I'm seeing is that, is this gonna form maybe a bigger correction that looks something like that for that push to the upside? Okay, so euro yen, probably need to give it time. Maybe we might take the entire of this week here to develop that correction pattern like that. But if this were to really happen, then we have a solid trade we can take to the upside, potentially back up towards 134.10. Okay, that's my view on euro yen, but you probably need to be very patient on that. Okay, it's not so soon, but it's a pair that I'm personally looking out for. The other one is the other yen pair here I'm looking at is pound yen. Okay, so pound yen, I'm actually more interested in seeing how this develop. If this is gonna develop more like a flag over here, that'll be interested in the downside. Okay, I would say the higher time frame chart on yen pairs here. Okay, there are a few ways it can of course play out. It can just go back up, then the drop forming the daily double top, or from here, it can even start to do something like that, coming back down to 148.50 in a very slow manner. Okay, and then maybe from there it will still pop back up first. There are a few ways it will develop. Okay, so as of now, it's not the clearest chart that we can do a projection, but I would say we'll give it a couple of days, and if let's say this forms a flag here, I'll be interested to consider a sell trade to the downside. Okay, so I would say euro yen and pound yen is probably not the cleanest chart, not the clearest. Okay, but it's in my watch list. Okay, and we'll see how it develops from there. Euro pound over here on the daily is rather clear. I'll be looking out for buy setup. Okay, but honestly, on the 4-hour time frame right now, it's not that clear. We do not have a setup for me, so just wanted to highlight over here. Okay, you can see this pattern, very clear impulse correction, and therefore we'll be looking for that pushback up towards 8720, right? This is a very clear setup over here. Okay, on the daily. So if you're able to have a strategy to look up for any buy setup on a lower scale, this is definitely worthwhile to consider. Okay, euro AUD, okay, cross pair over here. I'll be looking for sell opportunity. Okay, again, last Friday you see this push down here. This week we do have RBA rate statement. Okay, Australia Central Bank. So if you're looking at Aussie pairs, we might get some kind of move, right? Or riding on a catalyst from the RBA statement. Or it can be really muted, right? Hard to say, but understand that there is RBA coming in tomorrow. Okay, so we'll see. We'll definitely need to see how Euro AUD responds to that. Okay, the idea here is, let's say if it really just it's a muted event, price just don't move much, it continue to consolidate like that. I'll be very much interested in the downside. Okay, so Euro AUD, very clear setup, I think. Okay, double top impulse flag, then look for the sell. Okay, for me, the downside is rather attractive. Okay, I will be looking out for this level here around 5250. Okay, for my final target for my sell trade. Okay, pound cat is bouncing already, starting to see some movement. Okay, anyway, you can see pound cat here. I'm interested in the upside. Okay, towards 7585. Right, again, look out for the direction on the upside. You probably need to have your strategy to execute the buy trade, but direction wise, I think it's rather straightforward. Okay, look out for the buy. Okay, maybe this would be that setup, you know, and then wait for the flag, then you can take that trade to the upside. Okay, so maybe you need to give it like 1 or 2 more days. Maybe on Wednesday, then things are gonna be clearer. Okay, keep an eye on that. Some of the other cats over here, of course, you can see Aussie cat also looking for the buy. Okay, on the daily scale, potential target here is somewhere around 9550. Okay, pretty decent opportunity. If that breaks, of course, it can just keep going higher. But primary target as of now is around 9550. Okay, very similar to that, of course, is then sisters and brothers, right? Aussie and New Zealand. Okay, we have Kiwi cat over here. The target that we'll be potentially looking out for is around 8850. Okay, again, very simple setup. You do see kind of like previous structure. Okay, it comes back and then seems like it's lacking the momentum to break through to the downside. So we're definitely looking more on the reversal back up. Okay, these are not so clear. I would say like maybe dollar franc and dollar yen. Those are the clearest setup for this week. Okay, so all this that I share later on over here, like the yen, the crosses, the cats, they are not as clear, right? You probably need to give it until like Wednesday or even Thursday before perhaps things starts to be a little bit clearer. Okay, for you to kind of take that trade. Yeah, so hope that's clear. Other than that, really nothing much. Okay, of course, if you're monitoring like some of the indices in the market, right, especially the US indices like S&P and Dow, Nasdaq, they're breaking all-time high, right? Today market is closed, so we can't really look at that. But I've always shared that I'm actually bullish on the stock market in general. Okay, all the way until I would say easily perhaps until next year June. Okay, of course I know, you know, some of my friends are already starting to ask, like, you know, popular, I would say not popular, but successful traders like Michael Burry or even like Robert Kiyosaki, or even Ray Dalio, right, has been warning that there might be a huge crash coming and things like that. I always share this with fellow traders and investors, right? You need to understand that those are also opinion, right? Like just like what I'm doing over here is giving you a perspective, okay, giving you what I am seeing, what my understanding is, and give you a perspective of that, right? And of course, when Michael Burry says something or he tweets something, right, or Robert Kiyosaki actually shares something, Ray Dalio shares something, you need to understand they're all just insights and perspective. Okay, at the end of the day, I always say it's very important that you need to have your own framework. Okay, so you can take others' opinions and analysis into consideration, but you can never just make a decision based on others' opinion, okay, including mine, right? So when I share with you today, you know, we are looking to sell, let's say, dollar franc, does not mean you go and sell dollar franc. Okay, it's a perspective, and of course, if you take that into account and it aligns into your analysis, into your trading plan, into your strategy, then great. Okay, that would be like helping you to do some heavy lifting, and it fits into your plan. Great, right? We spot an opportunity for you. But you know, if today you have no idea of, you know, what all this is, and then just hear me say, oh, I'm selling dollar franc, okay, and then you just go click the sell button, that is suicide. Okay, don't do that. Okay, it's the same thing as, you know, if you put that into perspective, like you read an article and then you saw like Robert Kiyosaki backs Bitcoins because he expect a huge market crash or mother of all crash coming. Then what happened is you go and buy Bitcoin and you sell the S&P. Okay? Just because of that article. And then what will happen? Again, suicide, right? You're probably gonna lose a lot of money from that kind of decision making process, right? So important thing here, I think, is crucial for all of you, who are listening. Don't just I would say take all our opinions as just another perspective. Okay, if it helps you, great. But at the end of the day, you really need to have your own personalized framework to approach trading investing. Okay, so that's something very, very important. Yeah, so so generally that's how the market is reacting right now. Okay, crypto side, I think it's best to just leave it. Okay, you might be thinking like, wow, no, last week I say don't touch it, this week don't touch it. But I want you to know, right? If you touch it, this is how the market has been moving last week. You think you are able to profit from it? Probably yes, but it's gonna be very tiring trying to profit within this zone. Okay, where market is just going up and down. Okay, so I hope you can see why sometimes I say just leave it, because really that market is probably not clear. It's probably just bouncing around. You do not want to be involved in this kind of environment. Okay, so yeah, so for me, I think Bitcoin this week, don't touch it as well, right? Just stay away, just like gold and silver, just stay away. Okay, there are better opportunities out there in the financial market as of now. Okay, maybe when the time comes, right? Bitcoin is clear, gold is clear, silver is clear. Then that's where you go and trade it, or that's when you invest into it. But for now, I think just leave it. Okay, good. Okay, so that's some of my analysis, my view for the week. Okay, hope you actually they're clear to you. Ideally is able to help you as well. Okay, so for now, maybe we'll just open up the remaining session. If you have any questions, right, just type it in, and then from there I'll be able to share with you more from there. So good. Hey, yeah, so some of you actually I see asking like about last Friday NFP. What do you think about dollar? Yeah, I mean, looking at the chart, I think this week the dollar is likely going to continue weakening, right? So that's my view on that. Okay. Adrian here asks, how about Aussie franc and Kiwi franc? Not too bad as well. I mean, if you take a look at the daily time frame, the direction is pretty clear for me. Okay, you probably want to focus on the upside. Okay, so you can see over here these two charts. I think we have drawn this analysis since like last week as well. Nothing has really changed. Okay, so same thing over here. This is Kiwi franc, so we are looking for upside. Okay, target here about 6765. Aussie franc over here, upside as well. Target is somewhere around 7240. Okay. However, on the lower time frame, you probably need to be patient, right? I'm not seeing no clear sign of entry yet. This can of course still come back down before the bounce. Yeah, so you definitely need to have a set of strategy to get yourself involved in the upside, right? If you're looking at this, for me, I'm not interested in the sell. Okay, this setup here, this pattern here is telling me there's a higher chance this will go up as an impulse, right? So that's where I'll be focusing my direction in looking out for setups and opportunities to buy it, right? Yeah, but for me, some of you actually knows me well. I don't really like the franc pairs. Okay, they are just most of the time very choppy. Don't really like trading it. Okay, but from time to time, if you get some very clear setup, then I might still take it. It's not that I don't take it. It's just that I don't really pay a lot of attention to the franc pairs. Okay, great. I see Dean here asks, any fundamental sites for those who are trading gold. No, I don't really have any kind of like websites or even I would say books that I can really recommend you for fundamental on gold. But if you're wanting to understand like the fundamental of precious metal, I think there are a couple of books out there. I think last few sessions there are a few traders actually shared that as well. But of course, it slipped my mind. But at the end of the day, maybe if you're looking at precious metal, at the end of the day, it really falls back down to demand and supply, right? And gold, it's still pretty much a very speculative asset. When I mean speculative here, gold doesn't really have much industrial value, okay? Compared to, let's say, other precious metals such as copper, aluminium, platinum, maybe even silver, okay? These metals have industrial usage, they have industrial value, okay? They are needed for some production. So that is maybe, if you really want to understand fundamental of all this precious metal, other than gold, okay, your silver, copper, aluminium, platinum might have a little bit of fundamental study in that, right? Based on like demand and supply. Right now, do we need more silver, for example? Is there sufficient supply? Is there an increase in demand? Those are more like the fundamental of it. Okay, but gold itself is a little bit difficult in my opinion. Okay, because it's a very speculative asset. Who who uses gold the most? Probably for jewelry. Okay, and that is a very small market, right? In terms of like the production of gold. So gold at the end of the day is still more like the safe haven perspective where people feel safe, right? Holding on to gold, or banks actually store gold, because of history. How gold has been backed by the dollar and things like that. So that's where people have this belief. Okay, it's just like during panic mode, you realize a lot of people go to the supermarket and stock up toilet papers. Okay, I was actually quite curious to that as well, and then we actually went and also take a look at like how come toilet paper, right? Why not like biscuit? Why not rice? But why toilet paper? Okay, it's like so specific. It's toilet roll. Okay, and do you really need it? Okay, maybe not, but there is actually an interesting history that kind of like tied into this phenomenon. If you actually go and Google it, you can actually find it, and I find that it's pretty interesting to understand that how we humans tend to react in a certain way because in the past of certain events, and everyone just follow through like that. Okay, so why I'm drawing this out or telling you this story here is because same thing as gold. Okay, why gold became so precious right now, and it's actually the same thing as why when there's a pandemic, there's a lockdown, people buy toilet paper. Okay, it's actually the same thing. It's just that one is gold, one is toilet paper. Yeah. So hope that helps. And of course over here to also share with you a little bit on gold side. It's a very good asset for hedging inflation. Of course, we are now in the phase where we see inflation picking up. Okay, and that's where you also see Fed is talking about tapering. Earlier in 2023 already. So yeah, I mean, if inflation were to start, getting out of control, or inflation starts to rise very quickly, that will cause the precious metal to also spike. Okay, case in point over here, actually, if you go down to like the weekly chart and scroll back a little bit and look at what happened in 2008, 2011. Okay, that's where that gold actually spiked, due to again part of the demand and supply of the dollar, the devaluation of the dollar, inflation kicking in, right? Multiple forces and factors affecting that. Okay, so these are a little bit maybe towards the fundamental side of things. Okay, I'm not sure how would you even put that as fundamental, but that to me is the fundamental understanding of what can drive gold prices. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, I hope that perspective here helps. Okay, yeah, I see one question here asking from how Kit, right? Asking, can you tell us more about your journey in trading? Okay, any advantage of using any indicators or not using? No, I mean it's a very lengthy story if I'm gonna tell like all the way from beginning, but I would say you know, I'm not different from most of you, right? I would say all traders are more or less having that almost similar journey where, you know, you start off being very blur, you have no idea what you're doing, okay, but you're very excited with the idea that you can make money online, okay, and then you come in, you try out a little bit, you click a few buttons, right? You might make some money, you might lose some money, and then eventually at one point in time, you're probably gonna lose your entire account. Okay, I did that as well. Okay, we call it margin call. You bust your account, right? But from all this, what really separates, I would say, traders who eventually see success and traders who eventually, you know, give up entirely, is really coming back down to your mentality, okay, and your mindset, right? Do you see the market, right, the financial market as a gambling platform, okay, or do you see it as like a scam, right, or do you really see it as a potential vehicle that can really make a sustainable income from it, okay? And that's where I think differentiate the successful traders who eventually make it and people who eventually give up, okay? It's not really about like I would say it's not really about the strategy or things like that, but it really first layer here is boils back down to your mindset. Okay, very very important. So yeah, I mean, you know, from my journey over here, I think that's where it's also a process of self discovery. Okay, where you get to know yourself a little bit more. You know, you train up your self awareness. Okay, your mindfulness. I think that's very important. Okay, that would help you tremendously in your journey of trading and investing. Okay. And to me, of course, about indicators and things like that, um, it really depends on individual. Okay, like for me, last time I do use a couple of indicators, but right now you do observe that I'm mainly using on price patterns, right? How the chart looks like. Again, each of them works to a certain extent, right? I wouldn't want to say that this method that I'm using is the best, or you know, indicators are the best. But at the end of the day, you need to go and experience it and see if it works for you. Is it effective for you? Okay, there's really no shortcut. Okay, you need to really go and try it out, right? I did that, so I know what works for me, what doesn't work for me. Yeah. So hopefully this helps over here. Okay. Cool. I see Evelyn here asked about pound dollar. Pound dollar is not a pair that I would be paying too much attention for this week. Okay, I think there's a good chance pound dollar will continue to climb back up, somewhere towards back at this high over here. Okay, which is around 1.4. Okay, that's a good psychological number as well. But you know, the question is more like, would I would say would this be a worthwhile opportunity for you, right? If let's say this is trading somewhere around now 3850 to 1.4, that's about, you know, a good 150 pips, right? If it works for you, right? That means 150 pips to you is like, great, this is good opportunity, I want it. Then yes, okay, you might be able to maybe look for a flag and then trade it to the upside. But for me, I would not be interested in this 150 pips. Okay, I would just let it go. Very high chance I would just let it go, and then maybe when it comes back to 1.4, on a higher scale perspective, if this can continue lower, I might take a trade here to the downside instead. Okay, but I think for this week, you might get that short term trade to the upside with a potential target around 1.4. Okay. Good. So Jimmy asks, like, why NFP great but unemployment data given negative result? Okay, so you need to understand the data here as well. Okay, and you need to also understand how unemployment data is being kind of like compiled, right? So NFP is basically jobs created. Okay, non-farm payroll, right? So it's basically non-agricultural jobs being created. Okay, so that's basically what it really means, right? So the idea then is where if more jobs are created, it kind of tend to lead towards better payroll, better economy, and then better for the dollar. Okay, so that's generally how people look at it. Unemployment over here tracks. There's different types of unemployment as well, right? You have structural unemployment, you have cyclical unemployment, then you have the term called full employment, where again it doesn't mean that everyone is employed. Full employment basically also just means that people who once and actively looking for jobs are able to be getting a job and are being employed, and that's already full employment, right? So it can be there's a portion of the citizen who just doesn't want to work, okay, but they will still contribute to unemployment rate. Okay? For example, I don't want to work, even if you want to hire me, I don't want to, okay, but I still contribute to the data of unemployment rate, okay, because I'm unemployed, okay, and I'm not in a retirement age group yet. Okay, so you need to understand how these data are being kind of like compiled. Okay, so it's possible that new jobs are created, but at the same time, unemployment rate can still increase, can go up, right? Because they are not directly independent. They are not directly correlated, or I would say they are more or less also independent to a certain extent. Okay, so I hope that helps to give you the understanding of it. Okay, I see a very good question over here as well, from Haukip asking how to manage risk. Okay, very good question, right? I think over here, at the end of the day, the bottom line of managing risk is ask yourself, are you okay? Are you willing? Are you comfortable with the potential loss? I'll give you an example, right? Now, let's say we take dollar franc over here. Okay. Very simple. Now, let's say I decide to, just take a sell trade, and then, my stop loss over here, let's just give it a very good number to play around with. Let's say a 40 pip stop loss. Okay. And maybe I'll give you some example over here, right? So we have our stop loss. Let's give very rough 40 pips. Okay, I'm not saying put this trade in. I'm giving you an example, okay, based on the potential trade that might happen maybe tomorrow. Okay, now let's say you have a stop loss of 40 pips. Your lot size that you want to trade, okay, we'll just keep math very simple. Let's say you started off with thinking, okay, let's go in one lot. Okay, of course, given you understand what lot size is, right, and all those things. Okay, and you realize that very simple math over here, your potential loss, okay, would probably be in terms of dollar here. We just keep it very simple. Let's say $400. Okay, of course, it's not gonna be exactly $400, but I'm simplifying the math here. If one lot, one pip is equivalent to $10, then 40 pips if you trade one lot, potential loss of $400. Okay, and then all you have to then do is to ask yourself, if today I take this trade, I put in one lot, I have a stop loss of 40 pips, and this trade didn't play out, I end up losing this, and I'm gonna lose $400. Then you ask yourself, are you perfectly fine with it? Okay, when I mean fine here, I'm referring to you are willing and you're able to accept this loss. Okay, it's a very total different thing. Number one, you need to be willing. Okay. Number two, you need to be able to afford this loss, right? When I mean able means this money here, when you lose it, you still have your food on the table. Okay, that's very important. Okay, because you can be willing. Okay, you can be like a person who's very aggressive in nature and say that, oh, nothing, $400, but you might not be able to lose it, right? Or you might not be able to afford this loss. Okay, depending on financial conditions, right? So this is the part where you need to then manage it. Okay, if $400 is too big, reduce your size. $400 is too small, you can increase your size, right? But at the end of the day, this is where the bottom line is, right? It's not really about, like, you hear a lot of traders say, don't risk more than 2%, don't risk more than 1%. It's a good guideline, but the bottom line again is all of us are very different in terms of our relationship with money. Some of you, $400 is really nothing. Some of you, $400 is really a lot. Okay, so you need to make that adjustment according to how you feel. Okay, and at the end of the day, really, it's just that simple. Okay, why people are not able to manage this part here is really because of emotion, right? And that's where I share with you as a trader, as an investor, you need to be self-aware. You need to have that mindfulness to control that part of you, okay? The emotion aspect. Yeah, so I hope that helps. It's just really that simple, okay? Don't need to overcomplicate the whole process. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, so I'm seeing another question over here. Okay, Adrian asks about fundamental. Can we relate COT data for the fundamental analysis? Yeah, I mean, hey, I think one thing that a lot of traders tend to do also is they want to give it a name, right? And to me, honestly, at this stage, I always share, hey, you can give it any name, right? You can I can call what I'm doing here fundamental analysis, though everyone would strongly disagree with it. Okay? But at the end of the day, it's just a name, okay? And I want you to know like whether you have like take COT data as a fundamental analysis process, or you take COT data and you call it as a sentiment analysis process. Doesn't really matter, okay? Because at the end of the day, you're still analyzing that part of it. It's just giving it a name, okay? So I would say, COT, if you're looking at it, you can call it just COT analysis, right? You can use it to complement your technical. You can use it to complement your fundamental. At the end of the day, if that helps you and is effective in helping you, that's all, okay? That's all that's important, okay? So don't get too harp up upon like is it like how you use this for fundamental and things like that. At the end of the day, look at them independently, okay? Then if it's helpful to you, you put them together and that becomes your analysis process. Yeah, so hope that helps. Okay, I see Aries here asks, please tell us about risk management, right? So we talk about that, I think. I see your question over here, right? Asking how to draw support resistance in the fastest way. I would say it's okay when fast is very very subjective. Okay? I can do it very fast, okay? Because I have put in a lot of effort, a lot of practice onto charts. Okay, so to me it's very fast, right? If you take a look at this chart here, I'll just give you an example, right? Where are those highs and lows? If you want to take it more recently, it's probably here and here. That's about it. Okay, support, resistance. Okay, nothing too fanciful about it. It's, to me again, is really not difficult, right? You just pick obvious turning points, most recent to relation to the most recent price development. Okay, and that's what we call structure. Okay, you can call it structure, you can call it support resistance, you can call it supply and demand. Again, to me, the name doesn't really matter. The concepts are still basically the same, okay, more or less the same. So that's how I do it, right? Any time frame you do, right? If you go to 30 minutes, where would I put it? Here, here. Okay. The obvious ones are gonna be the ones that you want to first pick up. Okay. So nothing really too difficult, right? Even if you go down to like maybe I don't know 5 minutes time frame, okay, you can see highs, lows, right? That's how easy it is, right? There's no need for you to overcomplicate the whole process, like zoom out, zoom in. I think you can spot that support and resistance structure level on the time frame that you're looking, and usually all you need is like the most obvious high and most obvious low in relation to the most recent price development, and that's the way to do it. Okay? Effective, fast, simple. Yeah, so hope that helps. I'm seeing Wei Ming here ask about Ripple. I would say crypto market for the past couple of weeks, probably you wouldn't want to touch them, okay? Wouldn't even go to 5 minutes. They're basically just in a consolidation. Okay, I would say crypto for the for last 2 weeks and for this week, just don't touch it first. Okay, it can go both ways at this moment, right? So if you're not in, just be patient. Okay, prepare your capital when the time comes and then invest into crypto if you want. but not now yet. Okay, I think things are still not clear based on the charts. Okay. If you're already in, I hope you have a solid reason to be in, whether is it buy or sell. You probably need to have a solid strategy already in place. If you're in and you have no idea why you're in, that's the worst thing that can happen, right? Not only in crypto, but I mean like in stocks, in forex. If you have no idea why you're taking that trade and you're in that trade, I always share. Okay, best is to just exit first. Okay, go and really acquire the proper knowledge that you need. Formulate your strategy before you even execute a trade. So that's very important. Here asks, do we really draw support and resistance? Do we really draw supports and resistance? I mean, okay, I might not fully understand your question on that. I mean, key structure levels are definitely important, right? You can call it supply, demand, support, resistance. Even I use that, right? If you look at some of the charts, I use that, right? I have horizontal lines, right? But I don't trade it based on support resistance, right? I don't say, oh, it comes to the high, let's sell it. It goes to the bottom, let's buy it. No, I don't do that, okay? But I use it as a reference point, right? So you need some kind of reference, okay? It's just like, if today you're driving, you need to have a compass, or not compass, right? You probably need like maybe GPS, you need to know the direction, you need to know your destination. Okay? So this highs and lows, right? For example, like euro dollar over here, this highs and lows kind of act as if it is a potential destination point, okay? Because if let's say for example the momentum is coming down, then this low here can become your potential destination point, right? That's where you would expect, if this will continue coming down, this is where it potentially can come towards. Okay, and of course, if it's going back up, then this high here is potentially where it can go towards. Okay, so that's how I would say, at the end of the day, essence of support resistance is really that. Okay, yeah. Okay, so not really about like whether we need it or not. I think at the end of the day, again, it's not about a question of need, it's about whether it helps you. Okay, so I want you to know, right, in trading, it's both the art and the science, right? I think we talked about that for those of you who have been following us sometime, right? We talked about this topic here before as well, right? It's both an art and a science, and it's a little bit counterintuitive to how we have been groomed in school, where as a trader, it's a process of you need to perhaps unlearn a little bit of those concepts that were taught in school. Okay, how the school actually frame our mindset. You need to unlearn a little bit of that part and kind of like relearn new mindsets to approach the market, right? What I mean is this. Okay, in school we are always taught about right answers, you get a mark. Score high marks, you get rewarded. Okay, and then every questions that you have in exam, there's a correct answer. And since young, we are groomed to do that, right? Even in our typical workspace, you always have a right answer, right? And you get rewarded if you get it right, you get punished if you get it wrong, okay? Or if you don't deliver, you get punished for it, right? That's how we are shaped, right? And that's how we tend to think. But in the market, you can't adopt that framework, right? You can't use that kind of thinking process to approach the market, right? And you come in and you start to think, which is the right answer? Which is the right direction? But there's no right, and then you will struggle, right? Because if you're still fixated in that vision or in that perspective, you struggle a lot until you finally realize and acknowledge that, oh, that isn't actually a right answer. Okay? You need to really see that. Okay? When I mean right answer here in trading, it can be there's no best way. There is no like you must use this, you must use that. There's no like moving average is the best, Ichimoku is the best. There's no such thing as that. Okay, and even in like time frames, like do you trade on daily, do you trade on 4 hour, do you trade on 5 minute, do you look at the weekly time frame? Again, there's no right answer. Okay, and it's not our fault, right? It's again not our fault to seek for the right answer because we have groomed We are groomed since young to think like that. But as you approach the market, you need to be very, very open-minded. Okay, and you need to approach it in a way where, let's test this. Does it work for me? Right? You see, the changing of how you frame your question helps your progress a lot. Okay, and this is something that I tend to also emphasize quite a bit with fellow traders when they ask questions, right? I try to give, as best as I can, guide them to ask questions in a way where it will shift your mindset a little bit. Okay, so for example, questions like, what is the best strategy? Okay, or what is the best indicator? Okay, that question, you are looking for a right answer. But if you switch it a little bit and ask similar question, but you change the way you ask, what is the indicator that would best suit me? Okay, you realize that you change from an absolute answer where I say it's binary, like you just look for one answer that's correct. You change it, and now you're more like open-ended, right? Open-minded. Okay, this does not work as well, so let's try another one. Okay, and then you try another one until eventually you figure one that really works for you. Okay, so this framing of questions really help. Okay, and I can't emphasize that it's really important. Okay, because that is a total shift of how you approach your trading journey. Okay, and I would say you consciously practice that, you will see tremendous growth in that. Okay, definitely. This one I can promise you that. Good, huh? Okay, so I see some questions coming in here as well. Sue asking how long you hold the trades in swing trade. There's no like typical like a fixed duration. I would say it really depends on the market, right? If the market move a lot, and then of course that trade can be out very quickly. Okay, if the market just doesn't move, then obviously it'll be longer. Okay, but if you're looking at swing trade, maybe if let's say you're looking at executing trades on 4-hour time frames, okay, you might probably need to prepare to hold your trades a couple of days, or even maybe up to 2 weeks time. Okay, that's typical. Okay, if you're looking at trading maybe on a 1-hour chart, maybe at best within the week, like 3 to 5 days, okay, you probably get an outcome of the trade. If you're looking at like maybe 30-minute, 15-minute time frame, very high chance you might get an outcome within the day, or maybe at best tomorrow. Okay, so it really depends on your definition of swing as well, and the time frames you're executing your trade. Yeah, right. So that's how you can have an average of it, but it really boils back down to whether the market is moving or not. Okay. So I see Aries here also asks, up to how much extent does RSI helps us in knowing direction? Now RSI itself, again, this is to generally address everyone who have regards to indicators, right? Before you use that indicator, it's very important that you understand at least, okay, you don't need to go and know how to calculate the math, but you need to understand what is it calculating, okay, or what is that formula gonna tell you, okay, or what does, for example, what does RSI tells you? Okay, of course the name here suggests is relative strength index. Okay, so this indicator itself does not really tell you the direction per se. Okay, it's an indicator not meant to be a directional indicator. Okay? It's meant to be more of a momentum indicator. Okay, as the name suggests, right? Roughly you can get it. Relative strength. Okay, and then there's an index. So it's more actually towards, is the current move high in momentum, strong in momentum, or is the current move lacking momentum, right? So RSI is actually more towards that, or you might put it in the category of what we call an oscillator, right? Which is basically telling you the same thing, right? Like this oscillator, is it moving in high momentum, or this oscillator is basically moving in very low energy, okay? So RSI is designed for that, okay? So I would say do not use RSI to tell you, or do not use RSI to decide on the direction. RSI tells you the momentum. However, having said that, you can actually combine, oh, where's my RSI tool? Okay. You can actually combine RSI and price pattern, price movement, to give you a guidance in direction. For example, euro dollar. Okay, this is on 15 minute. We usually combine RSI with this principle called divergence, where you see price going higher, but your RSI is not breaking new high, which means the momentum of this push up is not strong. And when the momentum is not strong and you get kind of like a double top formation, then there's a good chance this will reverse. Okay, and that would tell you the direction, okay, but not the RSI. Okay, so that's how we can use it to help us in projecting the direction, but you need to understand more than just RSI. Okay, so hope that helps. Same thing if you're looking at any other indicator, you need to go and understand what the indicator does first. Okay, roughly what is the usage of it. Okay, this is very important. Okay, so for example, if I tell you like maybe an indicator like quite a bit of traders are using, for example, Bollinger Bands. Okay, you need to first understand the math of it. What is it calculating? What does it tell you? Then you are able to really maximize the potential of Bollinger Band. Okay, over here, right, if you're not aware, of course, Bollinger Band is a volatility indicator. Okay, but again, you do see traders using it purely for direction as well. Okay, nothing wrong about it as long as it's effective, it's working for them. But Bollinger Band, actually, one of the primary usage is really on volatility. Okay, and of course, if you add two bands into it, then you can play around with the standard deviation and things like that, right? And that's a different usage totally. Okay, so every indicator has its own usage as its strength. Okay, if you want to use them, study them a little bit more. Okay, good. Yeah, so good. Randy, I think we talked about euro dollar as well. Basically, don't touch it. I think same chart as pound dollar. I think short term, there's a good chance this will come back up here. Okay, you know, you need to then ask yourself, is this worthwhile, right? But for me, it's not a trade that I would personally look out for. But you can if this is something that fits into your style. Okay, I would say you can look out for this pushback up with this high. Okay, good, right? So yeah, I really hope, you know, today's session here does give you some different insight, right? I would always love where, you know, you guys are starting to also ask questions beyond just like technical charts or opportunity, right? Because I think trading and investing is more than just technical analysis. It's definitely more than just executing trade. Okay, there are a lot of other things that you need to really work on as a trader and investor to really walk this journey. Right, so I really hope today's session here give you that guidance, I would say, or even perspective into that. Okay, to really help you in a way. Okay, yeah, that's really my intention, right? To provide as much help as I can. Okay, of course, in whatever capacity that I can. So, good, huh? Okay. Cool. I see one more question over here about what's my take on BlackRock. Is it worth holding the long term? Yeah, I mean, the fundamental of that company is strong. So yeah, I'm personally holding on to BlackRock for the long run, right? So for those of you who are interested into stocks, yeah, BlackRock is definitely a strong company. Okay, and it pays off good dividend as well, right? So no harm not holding on to it. Okay, if you take a look at the chart of BlackRock, of course, it's breaking high as well, so that's fantastic, right? But today market is closed, so not moving. But you can see as of last Friday, it broke off new high, so fantastic. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah. Okay, I really hope you guys enjoy it. We run something like this every week, every Monday. Okay, so just would appreciate, you know, if you really enjoy it, benefited from it, Feel free to share it out to your friends so that more people are able to benefit from this kind of sharing as well, and hopefully we are able to help more traders to do this properly. Okay, yeah, so that's all from my side. All the best for this week. Okay, and I'll see you guys next month.